So let's start. My name is Gleb. I'm tech lead and co-founder of Mangata. What I want to talk with you guys about and what I want to present you is basically a quick discussion of who we are on the technical side, who are building Mangata and why we are doing it, how we are doing it. So basically, the technical team of Mangata, which is 11 full-time engineers, are divided into three very flat teams. Each one is dedicated more or less to one of the three core things. And why I'm saying more or less dedicated, because building one thing is inevitably influence another, because you cannot build Mangata application without knowing how Mangata blockchain is working, and you cannot ensure the quality of that application without understanding what application is actually doing. So basically, it is safe to say we are doing those three things in our three teams. So it is a blockchain. So everything that what is on chain, all the MEV prevention, all the gas designs, all the token mechanism goes there. Next, we have application. And why I'm not saying just the website, just the front end, is because the application of Mangata is basically a bit more complex, because right now we have our bridge, we have our faucet, later on we will have our integration with our substrate chains. So that is why front end, back end, everything what's communicating with the blockchain goes for application. And quality, the most important part, but the least visible part usually, is holding everything together. And the deployment process, the network structures, the nodes, everything like that goes under quality. So, also, I wanted to present you guys a quick update what we basically did recently. I know that's the first meeting with me here, first community call I'm presented, but anytime I will go here, I want to give you guys a sense of what's moving on, because yeah, we have our repos private, you can see those in GitHub, but it's really tough to go through it, to check the lines of code, to go through merge pull requests and understand what has been done, what has been added. So that is why I want just to present you what we have done recently, and basically the three most important things of the recent Mangata blockchain updates are presented here. So those are VED encryption, and VED stays for value extraction by denial. So what we are doing here is we hiding user transactions from potentially malicious block builders and executors, so no one can see what's inside the transaction until it's too late to modify, to reject it, or to replace it with their own. Next thing, we added on-chain governance. And the on-chain governance is one of the important cornerstones of Mangata. Basically, Mangata is actually a DAO. Well, we're not really often saying that, because right now, obviously, we have the testnet, the council is just small, but when it is live and when it is full function, the governance will be fully DAO-like. So how does it work for Mangata? We decided to go very simple yet effective way. Every Mangata token holder can vote for council, and council have a power to propose some code alterations of the chain. So governance, the council has the power to upgrade the chain, and it is the council who are voting for the upgrades. So Mangata holders voting for council, and council creating on-chain upgrades. As simple as that. And the last thing was added recently to Mangata testnet is Treasury. And Treasury, as simple as it goes, part of fee, not the network fee, but exchange. So what are the building part we are making it from? The most important technologies you are able to see right here, and the primary cornerstone of Mangata is substrate framework. Why substrate? because it's too awesome to ignore and not to build on it. Because the Polkadot infrastructure, the all that parachains interoperability is so important and also so interesting and so cool to build on. What we immediately choose Substrate when we saw it to create the product on. The vision of Substrate is to create power for everyone to do to make their own application specific chain, but those application specific chain can communicate with each other. And that is a really deal breaker for blockchains. Because years ago, you remember in the year 2017, there was a lot of application specific chain, but basically no one used those because it was not Ethereum. And you cannot bring your Ethereum tokens there and do something with it on that application specific chain. And basically every blockchain was like an isolated bubble. Yes, they did their job, they did it really good, but no much users was there just to grab that value. And Substrate here is to change it. We have the Polkadot, we have Kusama, and everyone is able to communicate, and you can pick tokens from one project, bring it to another for really cheap and effective, do something like lend, or if you bring it to Mangata, you can swap it and get them back. So that is why Substrate is a thing, and that is why we are building on it. And of course, we are doing it in Rust as a coding language, not just because Substrate is a primary Rust framework, so it's written in Rust totally, but because Rust is so efficient language. So basically, it's enabling some really high-level stuff on some really, really low level, which previously was possible only for C++ coders. But if you ever touch C++, you know how hard is it and how long it takes to do something. So basically, Rust is bridging the gap between really high-level languages, well, the very modern languages, and the very low-level performance. So I want to stay with it as long as possible. So I even would like to have most of our backend application in Rust. And once Rust will be a thing on the front end, one day I hope to bring it there too, but not yet today. And because of that, the TypeScript is the way to go. Basically, there is nothing better than a TypeScript for front-end applications, and it's a no-brainer. You no longer need to fall into pitfalls of pure JavaScript. You can have freedom of cool frameworks and just build on top of it. So yeah, if any non-coders are here and any of you guys are actually thinking about getting into coding, TypeScript is the #1 way to go right now. And to ship everything, we are aiming for an industry standard Docker and Kubernetes because that's an industry standard, and sometimes things which are popular just works and just works fine. So everything is Dockerized, everything is shipped in Kubernetes containers, Kubernetes environments, pods, and that is the way we want to keep it even further. And even when we will invite other validators to join our network, we want to present them the node as Kinda package, or maybe even AWS application. So people will be able to deploy Mangata nodes like in single click, well, in several clicks, let's be honest here, but it will be connected to Mangata network and it will be running in AWS, so no work with bare metal servers. If you want to have it in the cloud, you will have it in the cloud. As simple as that. Yeah, everything is simple in Mangata because Mangata is all about simplicity, but sometimes we need to do really hard things, really extensive, difficult things under the hood, but I would like them to stay under the hood, and on application level, I always want it to be really, really simple and straightforward. So yeah, while I'm speaking about application already, what are the updates here? Is a better handling of transaction status. And guys, really kudos to you who are testing Mangata application, who are going to app.mangata.finance almost daily, who finding new bugs and reporting those. It's not like, the black hole of a service desk you throw in the ticket in and nothing is happens. I can guarantee you every bug request, every bug report you throw in is actually a new ticket for us engineers, and the part of the things I will be presenting to you here today and other days is bug fixes and working with your feedback, with results of you testing the application. So yeah, just thank you for doing it, and thank you for helping us make Mangata better. I'm really glad to have you here. So yeah, transaction status, it's a result of direct request from you guys. Just you say it's not informative enough. Now it is better, and it will be even more better. Yeah, right now we're just working with what's coming from the network and presenting it to you in readable format. And right now in the private chain, like the developer version of the application, there are even more messages. That is why I'm telling more to come. The accurate calculations, yeah, that's another topic to think about. And the trick here is, we need to be somewhere in between, in the middle between centralized exchanges and fully decentralized Ethereum-based solutions, because on Ethereum you have gas, and every transaction is paid by gas, and we have to calculate to account for it in every transaction. And on centralized exchanges, there's only commission for the trades and no gas because it's not a blockchain. In Mangata, it's somewhere in between because you don't have any gas for trading, but you need to pay a small transaction fee for other operations like providing liquidity. So that is why we cannot just pick the ready solutions. We need to adapt. We need to adapt our trading for being feeless, and we need to adapt our liquidity providing to account for the fees. And that's why those accurate calculations is a thing. That's why, yeah, I'm so proud it's now better. And every application, every part of Mangata application, being front end and the back end, is now Mangata SDK based. We are creating a software developing kit for everyone to use Mangata nodes, because if you ever tried Polkadot.js, wow, it's tricky. It's complicated. It's not straightforward. And that is why we want to fix it. Actually, I had a lot of pain times trying to communicate with different Polkadot chains. Right now, everyone have a clear guidance on how to do it and how to do it right. But 2 years ago, wow, it was hard. And that is why from the day one, I knew we need an SDK, and right now you can grab it on GitHub and test it, and what it will worth if we ourselves will not use it. So both backend and frontend is using Mangata SDK, and we are aiming to release it soon. So what the next steps, where we are moving with next iteration of Mangata, with next features. And yeah, very important to say here, I'm not speaking about next week, but I'm definitely speaking before the release, because we are aiming to create a new testnet which will be fully parachain based and connect to that awesome substrate infrastructure, that Polkadot testnet infrastructure. It will be parachain based. It will be connected to Polkadot testnet like Rococo testnet relay chain. It will support fully X tokens, so you will be able to test it not only with Mangata native tokens or Ethereum native tokens as it's working right now, but also with native tokens of other parachains which are connected to the same testnet infrastructure. We will be providing a validator kit, which I already mentioned. It will be either a Dockerized environment for you to connect into, or it will be AWS application for you to one click or several clicks to deploy. And yeah, we will be aiming to release the staking, because what validator kit is worth if you cannot stake anything there. Yeah, basically, have you guys know, if you think MEV is not your problem, basically it is. Have any one of you used Curve Finance? I'm a big fan of Curve. Yes, that Ethereum stablecoin thing. Nowadays, not only stablecoin, I think they're really innovative in what they're doing and really good in everything except for user interfaces. But have you know, if you provide liquidity into Curve, and if you have not checked that advanced mark, 1% of your liquidity will go directly into pocket of MEV extractor. 1% for you forgetting to check the check mark. That is actually insane. And if you're providing several thousands, that can be a big loss just for, well, not paying enough attention to what actually doing. But even if you find that checkbox that does not guarantee you are fine, because value extracted by miners can be so tricky what you will get your transaction cancelled until the conditions are right for extractor. So it is really bothering me. As a crypto trader, I would like to use Uniswap or other DEXs more because on centralized exchanges, I believe it's just not secure enough to put money in someone's pocket without even having a proper contract with them. So on DEXs, I even lost a track of how much money I basically have to give up to extractors who are doing nothing but grabbing a part of your trade for themselves. So that is why we are doing it, and that is why we're creating a solution. And the first step to every solution is to understand the problem. And that is the reason we have two slides here with two different things, because during our path to understanding the solution, we identified two types of powers or two types of activities value extractors are getting their power from. So your transaction can be a subject to value extraction because of two things. A power to reorder transactions inside the block, but by the party creating the block. And because of power of miner to selectively deny your transaction if they think it can be profitable for them. So those powers are fundamentally different. And by the way, I'm calling miners everyone who are producing blocks, being those miners, collators, validators, whoever else. I just pick it as a synonym to block builder. And because those two powers, power to define the block content and power to reject the transaction, deny transaction, are so fundamentally different, we need two different solutions to solve it. And why we really one solution is not enough, I can cover it a bit later. So, reordering. Reordering is putting miner's transaction in exact spot in the block where it is more profitable for them. That include ideal arbitrages. So as soon as arbitrage opportunity on-chain arise, they can call their own smart contracts to extract those gains. Some of minor extractable values even ironically call such contract function as print the money. You can sometimes see it on the Ethereum network. Someone is calling print money function. Be sure it is a value extractor. It is a miner who extracts the value. So yeah, or they can perfectly sandwich your trade on decentralized exchange. So as soon as slippage of your trade is bigger than the commission you're paying, the price will be instantly manipulated for you to get worse condition. And right after your transaction, the price will be returned to normal one. And the problem is those value extractors don't even risk anything doing that because they're building the block. No one can prevent them from doing it. No one can put transaction which preventing them from doing that. So we're like absolute on-chain gods, just taking everything what was not protected well enough. So how we are solving that? We are solving it by separation of the block building and block production or execution. So you can see here for time slot 1, block 1 is created, is built, and on blocks time slot 2, the same block 1, is executed by another collator. So collator 1 or miner 1 creating the block, defining which transactions are going inside, and the collator 2 is executing it. But on its own, it is not enough to solve the problem, because who cares who executing the block if it is built the right way? And because of that, we introducing the shuffling of transaction. And the thing is, the seed is based both on previous seed from the previous block and on data which is known only to collator 2 and unavailable to collator 1 when we are building the block. So basically, the execution is depend on the data which is unknown to collator 1 and cannot be altered by collator 2. So even collator 2 cannot try different signing procedures and different signing algorithms or different seeds for signing the seed, for creating new seed, for shuffling. They are forced to use their private key, and they cannot disclose it because disclosing the private key means your funds will instantly disappear. So they cannot disclose it, and we have to use it to produce the shuffling seed for the block they get. So basically, even collator 2 who executing the block don't have the control over the execution order of transactions. So thus, effectively, transactions are shuffled, and the seed created by the collator 2 is passed to the next block for the next collator to pick it, to sign it, to shuffle transaction, execute those, and move on. So this way, collator 1 can put their transaction, their value extraction transaction, as much as we want, as precise as we want inside the block, but those transactions will be shuffled by the next in the line, and they will lose their position. And even if collator 2 will provide their transaction to be included into the block 1, they have to shuffle those anyway, and they don't know the order before they will get the seed. That is, in a sum, what we are doing with that shuffle. So no longer the perfect arbitrage is possible. No longer the perfect sandwiching is possible. Of course, you can submit your sandwich transaction and pray they will be included into the right spot into the block, but if they will not, you will pay the network fee. Because fundamentally on smart contract enabled chains, you can create a smart contract which checks the price. If the price is right, it's going into the trade. If price is wrong, nothing happens, and you just spend in a small amount of gas. But here it works different way. If you submit a legit trading transaction to the chain, nevertheless, price is right or wrong, the fee, the exchange commission will be taken. So that fee mechanism is actually in the same time is good for traders and bad for malicious participants who are trying to extract the value. For the traders, they are paying exchange commission anyway. And malicious extractors, if they want to send such transaction, which will be canceled if the price is wrong, the transaction will still pay the exchange commission. So we charging such participants who are attempting to perform value extraction extra, and we are not charging extra traders, so no gas price for trades. So yeah, that was the reordering, and what goes by denial is ability to remove users' transaction from the transaction queue, from the transaction pool, actually purposefully denying those to be processed for whatever reason. And the tricky thing here is not only miners can do those. Imagine some nodes just getting transaction from user and repopulating it into the chain. For example, let's say Infura. By the way, Infura does not doing that, but some other transaction transmitters actually do. Well, they did before. Flashbots came to life, and on Ethereum miners taken everything. Okay, so what can be a reason? Well, the transaction can yield the pure gain to its author. And what is a pure gain? It's, for example, NFT claim transaction. Let's imagine there is NFT giveaway on chain, and first 10 participants will get the token. And someone can take a look into transaction claiming the token, pretend they never saw it, and replace it with their own transaction claiming the token. So instead of you waiting your awesome NFT token, the token will go to an attacker. Such a pity, isn't it? And to fight it, we proposed a structure when the network participant cannot see the content of the transaction before it is inevitable to be executed. So how does it work? The transaction is encrypted 2 times. First, with block builder private public key, sorry, and secondary with block executor public key. So why it is encrypted 2 times? Because if you will encrypt it only with block builder key, block builder will be see in advance what transaction is doing, even if it is not for them to execute. Even someone else will be block executor, the transaction executor, they still can see what's inside and perform the attack. And if you're using block executor key only, assuming block executor can behave maliciously too, or in this case, better to say rational, because if we see some really good arbitrage yielding thousands of tokens in return with no risk, why wouldn't they replace the transaction with their own? So even if they will be able to see a transaction, they will be able to have their own transaction included before yours. So that is why the transaction is encrypted 2 times. And once it is included by block builder into the block, the right block builder is able to decrypt it. By the way, if the wrong block builder will include the transaction into the block, like in block n-1 here in the scheme, nothing bad will happen, just block builder who is dedicated decryptor for the transaction will take it from block and will decrypt it. So anyone can put a transaction into the block, but only block builder will be able to decrypt it, and block executor going right after block builder. What does it mean? Even if block executor is able to see the transaction content right here, they have no time and no opportunity to bring their own transaction to replace that one. Why so? Because block is already built. It's already on chain, it's immutable, and on their turn, they have to execute it. And if they will not, it's a violation of the behavior. It can be slashed, they can be thrown away from the validator set, and so on and so on. And also because the block is already built, they cannot provide their transaction before that one because it's already there. So they cannot be first. They cannot even include their own transaction inside the same block because, yeah, they will know the content only once the block is built and propagated and everything is final and immutable. So that's the solution. And so block executor will pick in the encrypted transaction from the storage. It's only encrypted once now because block builder decrypted it. They will review the content, execute, and everyone will see what the unencrypted transaction is only after it is executed. Basically, that mechanism provides us opportunity as regular traders to get arbitrage opportunities for ourselves, to claim tokens for ourselves. If someone will make some profitable trade, it may be worth it to arbitrage it immediately or something like that. And once more DeFi application will come to Mangata chain, it will be able to claim any pure gains like liquidations on loans, basically on Ethereum, liquidations on loans are available only to miners, and on Mangata, once we will be able to give away part of the liquidity as a loan, the liquidations on loans can be executed by users too. So that is 2 parts of a single solution. And for example, I want also to cover why only one part is not enough. Why just encryption of transaction and hiding information from the transaction is not enough for that solution? Why we need also shuffling? Because if we don't have shuffling, and if arbitrage opportunity is left after the previous block, so after block n-1 is executed, there is some arbitrage opportunity. Miner can just claim it for themselves just by providing the encrypted transaction being first inside the block. But since the block is shuffled, everyone whose transaction is inside the block has the equal opportunity to claim it. It's not necessary, it must go for arbitrage, it may be just for reasonably good trade or for some benefit from having your transaction first before everyone doing that. So even if transactions are encrypted, you can still claim the sweet spot inside the block all for yourself. And why just reordering is not enough is exactly because of pure gain transaction, which yields you gains immediately during execution of the transaction. And that is basically it, the simple explanation of what we are doing, but what it will take. Basically, we need to modify both on-chain part of the substrate and also the client of the block to properly execute it, to properly shuffle it, to properly propagate the shuffling data or decryption parameter across entire blockchain. So that is why we need to do really extensive modification on the node side. It's not enough just to create some smart contracts or pellets implementing the chain logic. We need to dive deeper inside the node. Oh yeah, basically that slide is about what we are aiming to have into the future. It's a bit different from the previous one about what we are aiming to have in the next version of the testnet, but that one is speaking about the road forward, the way on once we have the core solution up and running and tested and battle proven. So basically where Mangata will go after the launch and what features and things we believe are interesting and valuable. Well, guys, for you, for the users, and feel free to interrupt me and tell me I'm wrong if here is something missing, or if here is something, well, not worthy for a great DEX chain. So first of all, we want to have on-chain limit orders. Why so? Because not always the automated market making model is superior to good old limit orders, but at the same time, limit orders alone cannot guarantee your DEX is all time, every time functional, and you every time can get a reasonable price as AMM could. So the interesting thing here on how we are aiming to implement it, because on other chains like on Ethereum, AMMs and limit orders are competing with each other. So basically, if someone is providing limit order, they're cutting away a part of the reward, part of the fees from market makers who providing liquidity into AMM pools because they're no longer useful. We are no longer in use and we set aside. How we doing it is as following. Anyone is able to create limit order, log the tokens they want to pay, and specify amount of tokens they want to get. And once AMM price is right, anyone is able to liquidate that order using AMM pool. So basically the trade is anyway goes through liquidity pool and liquidity providers into the pool are getting their rewards. So limit orders are not competing with them, not getting away part of their commissions, but instead providing an additional source of those for traders who don't want to use the spot price and will prefer the limit price. As simple and effective. And to support it, we definitely need a new user interface. Right now, the interface is pretty straightforward and resembling every other decentralized exchange on the market because it works. We don't need to fix what's working. But we need a better one, a new one to support limit orders, to support other features like validating, nominating, staking, controlling the rewards for validators, but as well providing a more simple onboarding for the new users, for users who just discovering the world of decentralized finance and eventually ending up in Mangata because other solutions are either too complex or too prohibitive for them. So the simple, self-explanatory, or maybe even explaining something step-by-step process on how to use DEX, why to use DEX, and what are the parameters of the things, what actually all those colored coins here means and what we're doing. So simple users, new users should be guided through it, and that is why we are aiming for really simple and guiding step-by-step interface for noise users, which will include analytics for the token because everyone wants to know how the price, what changed in the past, what was the trading volume, which pools are popular, which are not popular, and so on and so on. The spot price may be the most important thing in the decentralized exchange, but anyone needs to know more. And sometimes it's just practical to see everything in one place compared to, 100 pages open in your browser and you're going through them, trying to understand what does token do, what is the price, when it was invented, when it was introduced, and so on and so on and so on. Simple, lean, but given enough information interface is what we are going for here. Another important thing, like critically important, is hardware wallets. And if you are not using those, I really encourage you, well, literally every one of you, to use hardware wallets to hold your crypto. That is really, really important to keep your funds safe. And safety is one of the core ideas of decentralized finance. That is why we are using decentralized exchanges. That is why we are using tokens and not just trusting centralized solutions. Uh, so just the last thing I want to tell is new decentralized finance applications. And by new application, I don't mean smart contracts. We are not having those in Mangata. Mangata will be application specific, but it does not mean there will be only one application because historically automated market making exchanges were designed in a way you just lock in liquidity in and the liquidity is used to define the price, and actually only a small, really small part of that liquidity is used inside the trades. Only 10 up to 20% is used daily for the most pools, and the rest of liquidity is just stale. And we can actually use those as long as we can guarantee the return of the liquidity back into the pool within a single block. We can reuse the same tokens in different applications, like lending. You know where it is already working? In traditional finance. If you're going to broker, if your broker is good, it can provide you such service starting from a certain amount of money, or just asking you, hey man, how about we lend your tokens to other traders and you will get a share of their commission. And some bad brokers doing it without letting you know they're doing it. So we are going to do the same, but in a decentralized environment. And since it is decentralized, all gains are yours, no broker needed.